Hi there, and welcome to another one of my classic reviews. I pick one of my all-time favourite movies, give it a rewatch, and then come review it. And in this video, I'm talking about horror. And I'm going to be talking about one of my all-time favourite horror movies, a movie that is so incredibly fucked up, Possession. So Possession is a film from the 1980s, and it's a French-German co-production with a Polish director and an odd collection of various European countries involved, and it's one of those films that is absolutely fucking mind-blowing. It's really fucking out there and it's brilliant. So Possession is a weird film, just for starters. There's no way I can describe it because it's absolutely just bonkers and it's fantastic. So, to basically get into it, it's basically just a metaphor thing about, so basically lead couple going through a divorce, woman, a bit weird, man, paranoid, and they go crazy. And then you get into all sorts of weird offshoots, and we have monsters, and we have references to God everywhere, and it's kind of an oddball art house horror mixture of stuff. So Possession basically is one of those films which changes itself around every time you watch it. It's a film that's never clear, it's cryptic, it's enigmatic, it could mean anything, it could mean nothing, although I'm pretty certain it means quite a bit. So let's just really get into it. What is it about Possession that is so effective as a horror movie? I don't know, but this is so fucking insane. This is so insane. It's a film which is frantic and nasty and disturbing, and it's constantly alive and fizzling with energy. It's one of those films where it is completely off the wall. Every single scene within Possession is pitched at a high energy. It is loud, it is shouty, it is people being violent, it is really out there. The camera work is flowing, it's moving, people are rocking around, people are doing all sorts. It's one of those films that is really out there. But what does it mean? Okay, so Possession could mean a lot. See, I've read a lot of interpretations, I've written a few interpretations of it, and even I don't really know what it is. I really am puzzled by it. So I think let's just start simply. So it's about love. It's about a couple going through a divorce. And it's about, in a way, the toxic ways a relationship can break down and the way a relationship can deteriorate. It's about people that are separated. And in a way, it's about people trying to craft their own perfect partner. It's about people trying to create the perfect version of someone they want. It's about, both the male and female lead seemingly find or create the perfect partner. And what they do is someone who, in the end, they don't find perfect. I think part of the film really is the way that it looks at love through a very dark and depraved spectrum. In fact, there's some debate to be had here of whether or not their relationship is founded on love or founded on hate. For me personally, I think there's a lot of love in this film. I think it's a perverse, fucked up, misogynistic love, but I think it is genuinely love at the heart of it. There's a lot of toxic men in this film as well, and I think it's interesting to look at this film through the lens of maybe the possession does not mean a literal spiritual possession. Maybe it is that the female lead is treated as a possession by all the men in her life. In fact, there's something about what they even want from a partner. And what they want is that it's never really clear. But what they end up with is a series of stuff which leads them down the road which leads to their end, basically. And we get to a point, we see their downfall, and it's really mysterious. And both sides of the relationship have secrets from each other. The male character has a job that might be like a spy, he's certainly secretive. The woman is doing something, she's deceitful, she's having affairs, it seems. It's weird. And Possession is a film which I can't describe, and I'm having trouble making this review spoiler free, but I just don't know what it is. There's a lot of things here also about faith and about God. In fact, I think there's something interesting here about what is God within the context of Possession. There's certainly a notion here that God might be a weird creature of some kind. There's also a notion here that God might not exist at all. In fact, there's a key thing that's brought up a few times which is to do with faith and to do with chance and to do with the choice between them and to do with the way that faith itself requires chance. To live by faith requires you to live by an assumption that there's a chance of something happening, or to live your life rationally and to go by chance is to have faith that chance generally works out. It's a film that sort of plays with the idea of what is and isn't real. In fact, there's also a question here about whether the film is atheistic or Christian in a way, because in a way it could be seen as atheistic in the way that it is condemning of Christian and patriarchal norms, or you could look at it as a film that's quite Christian and quite critical of the characters abandoning faith and abandoning Christianity. The film goes through these weird moments where it starts off being about two people who clearly hate each other but are trying to mend things, but then they aren't trying to mend things and they hate each other and that's it. And then they start to rebuild, and then throughout a bunch of revelations we see more and more and more. The male characters in this film are all pretty much slimy. There's certainly also a thing about love, because there's a difference between some characters. One in particular really has a thing for loving everyone, and the two leads seem to just love each other. Or if not love each other or versions of themselves. There's also a strong dichotomy here between the good and evil versions of oneself. So we see good and evil versions of each other, mirrors, reflections, duplicates. They're all part of this film. It's about seeing the good and evil within each other. And I think what's interesting is that the moral spectrum within the good and evil is not the same for everybody. Everyone is somewhere on the moral spectrum, and one character's good and evil version of themselves could both be more evil than someone else's good and evil version of themselves. There's also so many disturbing moments here. There's a particularly infamous one in the subway, and that is one of the most shocking, degrading, out there scenes in cinema history. So Possession is one of the films where you're so fascinating. I recommend you just read what I wrote, link in the description, because honestly, I can't really just stand here and tell you what I think of Possession, because it is one of the films that is just so in the headspace. It's so just stuff thrown out there. And here's what I think it is. I think it's one of those films that really doesn't have a concrete meaning. What it does is it has a bunch of ideas. Has a bunch of ideas about why people might fall apart or drift apart. Has an idea about what keeps people together. Has ideas about how men and women interact. Has ideas about misogyny. Has ideas about society. Has ideas about the way that people treat each other and the way that we do this. I think it's also important to note that the film has a child as a character, and the child sees things more clearly than anyone else. In fact, I think it's notable that children seem to see their parents' tension and understand it better than sometimes the parents themselves do. The film also has an absolutely out there ending. Honestly, I'm flummoxed. I don't know what to say about this. And I've been sat here going, I need to do my review for Possession. What can I say about it? And I don't know. I do not know what it is, but I love it. Few films leave me as flummoxed as they do, but at the same time, this is such a gripping experience. This is among the finest films ever made. Like, really, the finest. The very, very top of the top of the top. It's one of the best. Because few films are such an experience as Possession. You watch this film and you're drawn into this perverse, sick world. And it draws you in, draws you in, draws you in. And it throws you out the other side. And you don't know what you've been through. You don't understand it. But there's a semblance of a plot. And all you have is these flowing cinematography. There's so many shots here that just glide. There's so many just fascinating edits here. There's some beautiful, beautiful imagery. If incredibly fucked up. But it's beautiful. Like, it's fantastic. The way sex is shown in Possession is odd. It's shown as being quite sinful, being quite evil, but then maybe it isn't. There's also just other ideas in here about other things, like the way that the characters harm each other. They physically and emotionally abuse themselves and each other, and it's almost like they're numb to the pain because of all the suffering they've been through. The way they talk is so enigmatic. The lines of dialogue here seem so profound, and if they're not profound, they at least are thought-provoking. I don't know quite what it is. It's something that just exists on a different plane of reality. So few films exist out there in a way that nothing can describe them. And Possession is one of the rare few that exists on a totally different plane of cinema. It's a film which is just by itself. There's nothing like it. It's absolutely unique. It was hidden for years because of bullshit censorship and because people didn't get it. It was decimated, it was ruined, it was cut apart. People didn't get it. People still don't get it. It's a film that is hugely influential and hugely important amongst people who have seen it, but it's a film which is not something that everyone has seen. It's obscure, and it shouldn't be, because it's a masterpiece. And it's one of those films which I can forever talk about what I think it means and throw stuff out there, but I can't bring it together. It's just so full of contradiction, but that doesn't mean that's a bad thing. Because when I say it's full of contradiction, what I mean is there's so many ideas. And it's not that like each idea is underdeveloped. No, each idea is really well developed. But then beneath the developed idea is a bunch of stuff within it that is obscured, that's ambiguous, that's vague, that's contextless. It's a film that doesn't explain itself at all. You have to think about it. It's cerebral, it's heavy, it's horror cinema at its most art house, at its most brain fuck, at its most, you've got to sit there, take a deep breath, calm yourself down and go, do I get it? No, I don't. It's a film about love, it's about hate, it's about gods, it's about monsters, it's about the world, it's about the way relationships survive, it's about the way they fall apart, it's about loneliness, it's about dying covered in shit, it's about dying covered in blood, it's about dying at any point, it's about children, it's about love, it's about everything that really could matter on some level. And it could also be about none of those things. It could just be the director's perverse nightmare where he was just sat there going, I'm having a divorce, fuck knows, I'm in a panic attack. And that is just as valid an interpretation of this film, and it doesn't change the fact that substance aside, if we were to ignore all of this substance, which may or may not be there, you have a film which is a fucking experience. No other film is as intense as this in many ways. It is riveting. It's a film that scares the living daylights out of you. It's messed up, it's twisted, it's perverse, it's wrong, it's it's yucky and it's really, really, really great. Very few films do what this film does, and very few films do it as well as this film does. It's a real masterpiece. I've just talked a bunch of shit for 10 minutes, and I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I should give up, because this is one of those films that makes me go, what's life? What the fuck is life? I don't know. I'm done. Possession. It's a classic. Check it out. That was a waste of my time. I hope you liked it. Please leave me a comment if you had some sort of similar experience, if you went there, and please read what I wrote, because I hope that makes more sense of what I just ranted about. Links in the description. Subscribe if you want to hear more of this sort of shit. I promise I'm generally more coherent than this. You can follow me on Letterboxd or Twitter, links in the description. And yeah, Possession, oh, it's fucking fantastic. Thanks for watching. I need a drink.